our second session today, which is it online, right? We're working. Okay, good. So I'm happy to have our second session this day. We are going to have 3 presentations, each of which will be followed by reviewers' comments. I'm just checking if Mariia Markina is online and if she can hear us well.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, can you show Mariia on one of these slides, perhaps on this screen? Okay, yeah, hello.
Hello, everyone.
So we will have the first presentation by Olga Shevchenko, who is professor at Kyiv National Economic University. Olga, please, you may start.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Olga Shevchenko. I'm from Kyiv National Economic University, and this work was made in collaboration with Natalia Kuzminchuk. She's from Kharkiv National University. And we are going to let you know about how to deal with the modern situation in urban development and city development, and how to use common and different approaches to urban development analysis. And sorry, my presentation will be in Ukrainian language. Можемо сказати, що зараз ми аналізуємо розвиток міст.
So we can say that we analyze city development from 2 sides. On the first side, the cities keep suffering from the current situation, from the situation they were under even during the whole years of independence. And right now, they still have to ensure resilience that would at the same time would give the opportunity to build future prospects. So how could we combine, on the one hand, to ensure the survival, and on the other hand, they have to plan, and also they have to plan future development, and then based on which data can we do it? And so, looking at the situation, we would like to suggest the following research: how the disparities in the development of various cities in Ukraine can impact the current situation with the cities and urban development, and how is it all related to city policy and regional policies overall. So we would like to suggest the following 3 questions, 3 research questions. First, compare a couple of cities in Ukraine, their current conditions, analyze their social and cultural development, look at which data can be analyzed right now because they are present in the statistical observations, and which data still have to be added, and also build the economic and metrical model to regulate urban development based on the indicators that we suggest. So we analyze based on the reform that happened from 2014 to 2020. So we analyze the city Hromada, so United Territorial Community, and we analyze 6 cities from various regions of Ukraine. These cities are very different and have been very different even before this horrible period. And right now, they are building their resilience based on different and various factors. So the goal of our research is to combine, on the one hand, common approaches to analyze the situation, on the other hand, to look for some interesting moments in each of the cities. So what we took into account, we took 6 different cities from different regions of Ukraine. 2 of the cities are Kharkiv and Odessa, that are close to the front line. They are suffering from both land and air strikes. Other 4 cities are further away from the front line. And of course, they are suffering from shelling. Those cities are Vinnytsia, Kyiv, Zhytomyr, and Lviv city. So we have to look at the indicators and see based on which indicators we have to analyze their resilience, how to build economic security, and how all of this can be included into economic modeling. What will it give to us? It will expand the list of spatial data that could be included to economic models. We will look at whether we can include some elements of artificial intelligence, geo-artificial intelligence, for example, geo-artificial intelligence method. And we will also look at whether this experience can be translated into other cities in Ukraine. So these are the problems that we have faced in our analysis. There is a lack of certain data that could be included in our statistical observation and then use this data. Well, overall, the municipal statistics in Ukraine are not dealt with properly, are not worked on properly because it's not regulated with normative acts. If at the regional level everything is working well, we have a clear list of indicators for statistical observations. For cities, it's different. The municipal statistics is quite disparate, and each city uses their own discretion for their statistical observation. Of course, there's the list of indicators on the websites of cities, of each cities. Those includes industrial development, capital development, exports and imports, salaries, unemployment, services, etc. However, there is no generalized statistics, and as research, we are always facing the situation that it's hard for us sometimes to collect, first of all, say similar data, second of all, for the same period of time, and very often we have to either calculate and just imagine which indicators could have been during that period, or we should model for the period that is currently closed for statistics, because probably you know that the State Statistics Service decided to not publish the data for 2022-2023, so we can only rely on expert estimations to take a look at how the situation at cities is developing and what is the dynamics with social and economic indicators there. That's why in our work, we are suggesting that we use some common approaches to analyze data, and also we should take into account the specifics of each cities, because like I said, the cities have different levels of security, and before this period, they have different foundation for resilience. So right now, they have to form a new foundation to ensure their resilience further. Resilience from external factors, of course, this is the first type of resilience. And the second type of resilience is to have the opportunity to build social and economic development based on their own priorities. And the first priority is, of course, well, first of all, is the survival, and second one is growth. There's a couple of indicators that cannot be assessed statistically because they are hard to measure. And here we will look at expert surveys, and we will suggest a number of indicators related to creative development, innovation development, and overall cultural development, educational sector. So we will take the expert surveys based on our methodology, and we want to collect a good number of indicators, then include them into the economic model, and we might use dynamic modeling as well. We might use the statistical data and use various economic and cyber models to understand how these indicators can impact the development and the dynamics of indicators in the city. Then our next task is how these indicators can be combined with the current statistical indicator and what it can give us. So our key goal is, first of all, to think how we can implement this in the state policy on cities. And the second goal is how the cities see their own future, which indicators they include into their analysis, and how they are planning to develop further, to grow further. So we suggest the following algorithm. First, so the research algorithm. First, we collect data that are available based on statistical observation. We suggest our indicators that could be added to statistical observations. Then, using cluster analysis, we can group indicators and look at their level of impact. So we will group them based on their level of impact on certain result in the city. For example, the budget of the city or the investment involved in the city. Then, based on factor analysis, we will be able to take a look at which of these indices have the biggest impact on a certain result. Then we will introduce them to the econometric model, forecast various scenarios of the city development, and then we can take a look at the possibility of the implementation of a certain scenario. So we can, based on the current theoretic approaches, we can develop 3 scenarios. One of them will be pessimistic, the other one will be optimistic, and the third scenario will be realistic. And one of these scenarios will be taken as a baseline scenario, and we will move it forward and suggest it to the authorities. We have experience of cooperating with city councils. We worked with them on the strategies on city development. So we have some context, we have some previous work, we understand how the strategies of city development are developed based on new requirements. So we will want to suggest this research results of some community. We can base our research on certain principles to stay within the overall theoretical context of how the organizational principles of studies. So the first principle is the priority. We have to select one goal of development of each city. This goal has to be attainable. It had to be diverse. Each of our actions had to be split into periods. And we, of course, have to see the prospects of our development. Besides, the policy of our city development has to be characterized by various stages of integration, which involve teamwork, joint development of goals, and then public discussion of these goals, followed by the implementation of these goals at various levels as a strategy of the regional development, and also when it comes to the strategy of each city's development. So basically, this is what our research is going to be founded at. We are suggesting methodological approach. It will give us the opportunity to see the prospects of city development. We will be able to involve both quality and quantity indicators. We will be able to look at new methodologies of working with statistical data, with the various dynamic rows, and we will be able to make some suggestions for city authorities.
Answer to your question. Thank you.
Дякую, Olga. Thank you, Olga, for presenting. We will now ask our readers, Malchykova, Daria, and Mariia Markina, to proceed with their review comments on the paper. Whoever is ready, you can start. Maybe Mariia.
Yes, thank you. Olga, thank you for your presentation. And it's very good research. Я хотіла би сказати, що це
I would like to say that this research...
Your first sentence, we didn't hear you.
Okay, are you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Olga, for your presentation. Ваше дослідження, воно представляє собою...
Your research represents a very well-structured and relevant materials, and it presents a qualitative approach to understanding social and economic development of Ukrainian cities and territorial communities. There is a clear emphasis on solving the current challenges while using modern opportunities that our cities have. The authors of the research demonstrated and highlighted the necessity necessity and the importance to improve data collection and processing, and the selection of cities that you picked from various regions of Ukraine. The cities you picked demonstrates the deep understanding of various of the context that cities and communities of Ukraine face, and it highlights the significance of the research and the potential of the research. In my view, one of the strongest aspects of this research is the accent on the concept of city resilience. You suggest a broad toolbox to develop the city. You highlighted the need for the cities to have instruments not only to tackle the current needs of social and economic development, but the tools also strengthen the long-term resilience of the cities. The focus on IDPs and their impact on the economy of the cities, it's very good that you strengthen that point, because very often that point of internally displaced people is not taken into account in other research. You also consider different dynamics of city development that are shaped both by long-term factors and external military aggression. And having considered these factors, you added value to the research. The research also offers a balanced view on the opportunities of the city's development, and you offer very good answers to the challenges and unique needs that the cities have based on the 6 regions selected for the research. I also think that the suggest to update the methodology of statistical observation is important. And your urge to use spatial data more is also important, as it demonstrates a smart and progressive approach to the current research. These certain aspects, the aspects that could be looked at in a deeper way, maybe you should display and show how the instruments the tools suggested can be used in each cities that you picked. And I think if you explained how these tools are going to be used in the cities, it would maybe make your research more structured and more adaptive. And in my opinion, it would be also useful to focus more on the importance of spatial data and on how they can be effectively integrated and how they can be used to collect disparate data. And I think it's important to focus more on the technique of data integration. I think it would be strengthen the practical importance of the results for the cities. So thank you. Thanks a lot, Olga, for your research. The research is very solid, great presentation, and thank you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you for your review. Do you have questions to ask?
Yes, thank you. I have one question for our start. Пані Ольга, які конкретні
So my
методи
question is, Olga, which specific methods or instruments will be the key ones to collect and integrate spatial data? So, especially when it comes to IDPs and their impact on the city's economy. And as a follow-up to this question, do you think about involving geoinformation systems and other modern technology to provide a more effective analysis of disparate data that you mentioned? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. To talk about IDPs, first of all, we are going to design a questionnaire and to do the survey in the key hosting communities. And this is going to be a questionnaire work, I guess. Then we are going to process the results of the questionnaires. Speaking about the GIS application, yeah, definitely we are going to use the mapping methods, and then we are going to use GeoAI to process and interpret the data we are going to get. For instance, we are going to use the solution tree to see how the data we have could be used to achieve this or that result. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Olga. So we have a second reviewer, and I would like to pass the microphone. I'll do this like this. To pass the microphone to Daria Malchykova for her to give her a review of the paper that was sent.
Thank you so much. Thank you, dear Oleksandr. Thank you, dear Olga. And we agreed with Oleksandr that I express my review on English, but I ask my question on Ukrainian for you. Yes. And I think the study undoubtedly forms a very clear vision to assessing the state of the city through the prism of statistical observation. It's really, yes, it's a really great and remarkable contribution to urban policy debate. And I think that its proposed for us is offer for us really a great way to combine very disparate data of cities and can reveal urban development trends. But perhaps the conclusion of the study will be even more significant if they are supplemented with the following reflection and materials. First of all, with what statistical data on urban development and their sources can be relied upon today. And it is known that there is no full and regular statistic accounting of indicators of the current situation in Hromadas, in cities, in other rural settlements. And in this context, maybe it would be useful for reader to see which statistic data from the list proposed by the author, by you, are still available and which will require collection and separates with palliative methods. And the second one, it's my reflections on spatial data. It's very close connected with Mariia position. Maybe it could be data from remote sensing methods applied, and also I think it have very significant matter in sense of real estate level of damages. Because for me it's very great challenges to compare, for example, Vinnytsia and Kharkov, Zhytomyr and Kharkov, and even Odessa and Kharkov in nowadays situation. Because only with regular monitoring data, special data, we have to evaluate situation, what we have in real day, in real city. And the last one, I think, shouldn't the list of indicator for statistical analysis of the city's socioeconomic development includes the desired range of demographic indicators. It's not only about internal displaced person, it's also about more wide list of demographic position. Because we really have all social spatial structure closely connected with socioeconomic structure, and we really have evaluate all modern trend in demographic situation, and also we really need to evaluate its close connection, demographic indicators with indicators of special losses, damages, destroyed of building and economic infrastructure. But I also have to repeat that the paper presents very interesting proposal for integration the components of the strategy of development process, and it's multi-level integrated process, integrated situation analysis, territorial integration, and other level of integration of data. And I think it's would be useful to explain this part, to see more discussion of what tools, mechanisms, and approaches can be used to implement specific types of integration. Maybe participation as a way to integrate our vision, vision from professionals and vision from specialists. And given the complexity of the issues, I think you provide many positive and welcome results, and the study clearly has the potential to make a significant contribution to the debate of post-war reconstruction and post-war recovery in Ukraine. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. You are now open to give a few questions if you have to Olga. Yes, this is time.
Дякую, дякую. Да, і в контексті того
огляду, який within the context of these recommendations which I have just made, I would like to focus on one question. So you have already started this issue, and I'm curious what indicators you could monitor in the ongoing way, which indicators would require special surveys and implementation of special research instruments. And this is the first question. The second question, what your focus is on detailed socioeconomic indicators, but I would also like to have your vision about other indicators which are compulsory for urban development, meaning demographic indicators and spatial indicators, because taking the case of Kharkiv, for instance, this is essential for this city. Thank you very much for your question. True, we can have, we can use the ongoing statistical research in terms of capital investment, direct international investment, export import, employment, and municipal expenditure, municipal revenue. But we need to apply to conduct additional research to monitor the mobility of IDPs and their effect on economic development. This is yet an issue to be studied. We need also to study the dynamics of IDPs and their mobility, and we would like also to understand how we can assess the damages incurred during the war with Russia, and how to assess the the budget necessary to recover that. And so we need to design these indicators. And to answer your second question, yes, thank you. I agree with you. There is a need to include also the ecological independence indicators, for instance, or which would entail expenditure. Then I think it would be expedient to include also the economic indicators, for instance, GDP of the region and the proportion of the contribution for a specific city contributing to the regional GDP. Also, maybe it would be interesting to indicate the cultural indicators and the indicators of civil society activity in Ukraine. And so thank you very much for your recommendations and questions.
Thank you. I think if there are no immediate questions, we can maybe have a shorter discussion at the end of all of the presentations. So now I hand on back to Daria Malchykova for her presentation. Daria works at Kherson State University, and come a long way to see us here. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Oleksandr, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude to be here today. And I present Kherson State University. I'm not urban planner, I'm not architecture, I'm geographer, but maybe my a little bit unusual vision also will be useful for this discussion and for narratives of this symposium. And I present my topic, planning regional reconstruction amidst conflict. And I describe two sides of strengthening decentralization or centralized solution in post-war recovery. And it will be in three lines. The first line, planning regional reconstruction and development amidst conflict. It will form contextual background of this research, and it will be about our base for our research. The first of all, the worst fact of nowadays situation in Ukraine that we cannot imagine how long we will have full-scale invasion, how long we will have full-scale war in our country. And now almost 1,000 days of full-scale invasion and more than 10 years of Russian aggression in the eastern and southern Ukraine. And the second very important fact, it's about damages and destruction. According to the different assignment, for example, according to the assignment of Kyiv School of Economy, we have more than 150 billions of total amount of damages. According to some other researchers, we have more than 750 billions of amount for complexity of the effort to recover Ukraine. And also Ukraine declared now almost 200,000 square kilometers of potential contamination areas. And it's really very significant facts in matters that we have in our constitution more than 600,000 of our square. But we don't have these special resources now. And also to very important fact, which also formed our contextual background, this is the first fact. It's about very significant, crucial geostrategic significance of Ukraine in European among European countries, and the second one, it's highly skilled labor force and functioning economy and social resilience of our people. We all remember about 3 days plan of Russian invaders, but we now have almost 3 years, our resilience. And the second line, it's about Ukraine modern context, which describe challenges of colonial past and wartime. Nowadays, wartime changes in our country, and it will be about framework for spatial design. The first of all, we have to remember always about Soviet nature and society transformation agenda. It describes for 2 words, colonization and centralization. And you can see little photos from construction of Kakhovka Reservoir. We have now absolutely new heritage, society heritage, nature heritage, and economy and culture heritage. And also we have absolutely new administrative territorial structure of our country. We have very difficult and centralized system of administrative of management, of administrative structure, and of division our territory. After reform, 2025-2020, we have new territorial units, hromadas, territorial communities or hromadas. And a lot of researchers estimate this result of decentralization, the result of reform as the most successful result of our independence time. And some research thinks that the finishing of territorial administrative reform was the most important factor of our social resilience. And now we have new challenges. We have military state administration, but not in all local units, not in all hromadas, only in regional level and only in district level. And it's also form our framework for spatial design now. A very short comments about demographic patterns our nowadays time. We really register some positive facts in our national level demographic trends, but in our local demographic patterns, we register a very horrific consequences. For example, local dimensions, on example of the occupied territorial communities, hromadas on Kherson region. 17 from 49 hromadas were deoccupied in November 2022. And we could estimate some demographic result. As you can see, we have decreasing in all indicators, in number of population, in population density, in settlements population side also. And we also have horrific result of estimate of damages. In 17 occupied territorial communities, we have on period, you can see, from beginning of full-scale invasion until 14 September 2023, we have almost 15,000 damages object. And the most part of this object, this is private residential buildings. But also very horrific result that about 10% it's communal and social objects, school, hospitals, administrative building and other. And also I cannot very clearly to clarify last table on this slide, but you can see that we have really crucial, really horrific result in changing our population in our settlements. We have increasing the very little settlements, and only one city in our region now have population more than 10,000 of people. And also we all remember about Kakhovka reservoir disaster and consequences of Kakhovka reservoir disaster. And really now we have new landscape heritage. And it's also facilitate us for a new vision of special agenda for this territory and new vision for a future of this territory. And the most important question, with whom and for whom we will form our special design, our special policy. You can see in the right part of this slide age structure of the occupied communities. And the 51% of population, this is population older the work age, and only about 9% children and youth. It's demographical side, but we also have very significant political changes. We have destruction and complication due to the creation military administration, but in Kherson region is only one region in which in all hromadas we have military administration in Ukraine. And we have dismantling of the Ukrainian government system in the occupied hromadas, and we also unevenness in the creation of military administration at the local level and their absence for all occupied territories. And the last third line, it's our discussion about what will be more successful, top-down or bottom-up approach. And it became for us very unusual conclusion. First of all, we have to remember about our new vision for our special agenda. It's about decolonization and decentralization. We cannot return to our old monumental project, monumental special form and other. And also we have to remember about our global framework, European framework for our action. It's about not only about sustainable development goals, it's also about European Green Deal, about European Commission priorities and other. And when we want to describe our vision, it will be about transition as condition. We have to see in all challenges which we have in wartime as our new opportunity, for forming new regional identity and changing in collective experience due to the political, information, and socio-economic, culture, war, violence. And our new vision, it will be also about inclusive spatial development. As we describe as creating a space that reflects and respects the diversity of all users, society, economy and nature. And how we can hear all actors, all stakeholders, is described of formula, everyone voice to be heard. I don't repeat all text of the slide because it's a slide present for us narratives of migration attitudes and motivation context for returning people in Kherson region and Kherson city community. And when we want to decide what more effective way, top-down or bottom-up approach, centralized or decentralized solution, we will remember about 3 key dimensions of sustainable local governments. The first, different types and scales of physical destruction. The second, degrees of dismantling of the Ukrainian government system, because it will be people with which we create something new. And the third, changes and emergence of new function of hromadas during martial law. And that's why we will think about 3 main issues. The first, rethinking the capability of hromadas. The second, revise the network of the territorial structure of Gromadas. And the last one, increase decentralization in post-war reconstruction. And I think the balance of centralized and local solution is the most effective way for us in these circumstances, because we have some logistic problem, we have some consequences of disaster, for example, after Kakhovka reservoir disaster, which we cannot solve only on local decentralized level. That's why we have to find optimal balance, optimal blend between centralized solution and local solution. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry, maybe it's...
just a little bit over the time dedicated for the contribution, but that's okay, we can fit it in. I think, thank you for the presentation. So we've heard about the major cities in Ukraine, now we've heard about the communes which are much smaller in Kherson region. So this is another dimension of our discussion, and I think I should hand on to our readers, all of the people present here. So whoever wants to start first, you're welcome to bring comments. Olga, then you start, and Mariia will be the second.
Okay, if Mariia don't mind. Thank you, Daria, for interesting presentation. Actually, your presentation gave me a lot of answers to my question that I asked before. But nevertheless, some words about positive moments of your research article, and as I play the role of as a critic, so I can give you some comments, critical comments too. Articles devoted to the topical question of whether it is appropriate to talk about regional reconstruction in times of war, but we should already be talking in both academic and practical contexts about how to rebuild the regions, what theoretical approaches and practical tools to use. And it's important to know that importance of studying the deoccupied territories, which is highlighted in the case study of this article, is good work. And indeed, it's from the example of territories affected by a hostile regime that powerful models of reconstruction and restoration, including institutional ones, can be built. But I also have some critical comments, yeah? Article should clearly indicate what the authors wants to analyze, what is the purpose of this article precisely, and to specify what is the purpose of article. And the abstract is still similar to the introduction, but it's technical issue. And article contains some general things that are not related to the topics of the paper about the history of the country, the theory of top-down and bottom-up, and the decentralization reform. And it's necessary to present the author's analysis of the approach to spatial planning in a broader way, and, but now it is only one paragraph at the end of the section 3. And also the author should focus on the issues related to the topics of the article and provide examples from the Kherson regions, which would significantly broaden the research base and its analysis. And I should repeat that the presentation is more related to the topic of your research. Please add the section materials and methods, yeah? I advise you to limit point of the study to 2014, 2015, which corresponds to the topic of the article. And I can say that I like your article because I highly appreciated it because it's very difficult to understand and to explain other people. Is it really necessary on this point of our history to build a new reality, to make some constructions, make some ideas? Is it really our contemporary modern problem to build a new reality in the when we don't know? It was a very good slide to 24th of February and 3 questions. And thank you. I have some questions to you too. Thank you, Daria. Very interesting. It was. I really appreciate it. It was very interesting to read your article. Thank you.
Yeah, so you may proceed with questions. I think it would be best to follow up directly.
As the front line is, my first question is about war, and the front line is changing very quickly. Do you take into consideration that we may have completely different situation in 1 month? I mean, Kherson region. And the second question is, there are a lot of part of in your article is about political issues. Is it really necessary for your article? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your estimate, for your good estimate and comments, critical comments. It's really very valuable for me. And about your first question, about very different situation, it's really true because we have, for example, in some hromadas, for example, Kherson city hromadas, we have horrific change in demographic, horrific change in our special resources and in damages, sharing damages every day. We have a new shelling, every day we have new victims, every day we have new injured people and our space. And for example, in interesting fact, in Kherson city community, we now have only 25% of pre-war population, for example. But in some, but in a very interesting fact, even in these very difficult circumstances, we have a situation when people return. People return, and even we have about 30,000 of internal displaced person in our region. It's people from left bank of our occupied territories, but in any way we have internal displaced person even in this difficult day. And also about your second question, maybe it's really a little big part of my article is about political dimensions and political questions. But I think when we try to find optimal way for build our new vision in spatial policy, in spatial design, we will understand that in global, in European level, global community facilitates us for increasing decentralization or increasing role of local communities. But we have to understand that in post-war recovery, we really have a lot of problem which we will not solve only with bottom-up approach. That's why I understand very clearly these political moments. Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you, Daria.
Thank you for the first reader, and maybe Mariia, you could follow up with your review, and then you will be also welcome to present your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Oleksandr. Daria, thank you so much for your an impressive and forward-thinking analysis of spatial policy making during wartime and in the context of post-war recovery. Ваша робота є таким дуже глибинним і сильним дослідженням.
Your work is very deep, and in my opinion, it has a lot of prospects when it comes to the analysis of the post-war spatial planning policy, especially in the context of post-war reconstruction. But on the other hand, looking at the challenges and the needs that we have now, you also included them in your work when it comes to the spatial development of territorial communities. In your research, you looked at the unique challenges that the Ukrainian communities and cities faced, especially when it comes to territorial governance at various levels. And you also highlighted the key aspects of the complicated development dynamics during the war. It's good that you focus on the adaptation of spatial development in the conditions of unprecedented consequences of war, because it highlights and strengthens the relevance of your research. And one of the strengths of your research is the novel analysis of the deoccupied communities of Kherson region, and specifically Kherson city territorial community, because this detailed analysis gave us the picture of how the local governance is structured and how they can be adapted and how they can strengthen themselves while countering the challenges of war, the demographic challenges, the issues of the global issues that also have the impact on the territorial community. And I also think another positive moment is that you looked at the EU documents, at the EU agenda and other spatial policies that are adopted at the European Union level, because this way you also focused on the efforts of Ukraine and on the steps it takes to be in line with these policies, with these European policies. And this approach also broadens your research and focuses on the relevance of Ukrainian experience and on the to be used in other countries, because maybe other countries will face similar challenges and Ukraine will have the experience to share. Another thing I would like to add is that you could be more clear and in the characterizing of the impact of demographic changes and the destruction of infrastructure in the context of spatial policy. And maybe you could provide a more in-depth analysis of the factors that would impact the long-term social and economic recovery, because in my opinion, it will strengthen the overall research in your article. Thank you for this interesting presentation, and thank you for the interesting material that you presented. And first of all, I have one question that was closer to the end of your presentation. What's important is the involvement of people, and I think it relates to all territorial communities. So I think I would like to ask what practical steps we can take to involve local communities when it comes to the recovery and strengthening of social and economic resilience. So how can we do it both right now during the large-scale war, and how can it be done in the post-war period? So what should we do specifically to involve a larger number of people and to make them more active? Thank you.
Щиро дякую за такий докладний аналіз, за такі дуже гарні коментарі.
Thank you very much for this analysis. Thank you for your very favorable comments. I do appreciate that. And talking about the question which you have voiced, there are two aspects to it here. First of all, the most important thing here for me is that we must focus on the voices of everyone, not only those who are living in our community, who have stayed, who have returned. We also must hear the voices of those who left our community and who live in other regions and those who live abroad. If we need to return our people, we must hear everyone, and we shouldn't separate them. And they are all very different groups. We have assessed it. And secondly, our participatory practices provide excellent tools to engage communities in the process of planning. Actually, the war stimulated local activists, especially in those territories which were occupied and which are located next to the front line. And also, we can say that war has consolidated our society, and the opposition which Kherson effected against the Russian aggression, the volunteer movement was unimaginable before the war. So we must use this as our resource, and this is already an efficient mechanism to engage the communities so that they could participate in the planning. For instance, quite often regional military administration of Kherson and its region are organizing workshops and roundtables with the representatives of NGOs and local activists, because they are the mediators between the common people and the authorities, who are able to be the voices of our communities. And so this may concern the distribution of humanitarian aid, etc. But this is just a fraction of the efforts they can actually execute and effect. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mariia, the interpreters ask you to speak a little bit slower in Ukrainian, because it's a bit hard for them to translate if Ukrainian is spoken very fast. So in your presentation, if you could speak it just as it goes, but without rushing it in. Okay. So if you're presenting in English, then it's okay. Well, the way you choose. Both languages are fine online, absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Oleksandr. My speech today will be in Ukrainian. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation to such a wonderful and necessary symposium. Thank you, Oleksandr. My name is Mariia Markina, and I am an expert in the field of urban planning documentation expertise. Today, I'm presenting the result of a joint study together with my colleagues, Professor Vera Ohorodnik and docent Inna Ilyashenko, and together we represent Kyiv National Economic University, named after Vadim Hetman. And as I say previous, my speech today will be in Ukraine, and my speech, it's about просторовий розвиток територіальних громад України.
So I will continue my speech in Ukrainian. Today we are talking about spatial development of territorial communities in Ukraine in the context of post-war reconstruction. So I will try to speak slower for the interpreters to catch up. Lately, Ukraine demonstrates a huge importance of spatial development, both for territorial communities and for the country on the whole. And spatial planning becomes the important instrument to take into account the interests of all stakeholders in terms of spatial planning and in terms of the development of the place we can call home. This is happening as a part of the process of the reform in local land use and other legislation, and we are also taking very confident parts in terms of spatial development and planning on the local level, at the level of the local communities and individual settlements. Despite certain progress which we witness in terms of spatial planning and the best practices that we have borrowed from Ukraine. Actually, in Ukraine, spatial planning per se is rather vague in Ukraine. And so spatial planning is constructed around fragmentary notions, which we borrow from various branches of research. Quite often the issue of spatial planning comes from urban planning. It is connected with architecture, with landscaping, etc. So, according to our current legislation of Ukraine, in particular, concerning the law on urban planning and development, which are rather similar, and they create the general framework for urban development. Spatial planning is identified as joint activities of public administrative bodies and communities as stakeholders in urban development and development of communities. And so the key role in urban planning and urban development is played by public administrative entities. As for the entities who are actors in spatial territories, they are concerned with forecasting the development of territories, ensuring rational population distribution, determination of the specific residential, public, industrial, recreational zones, etc. And can you please change the slide? We have conducted a comprehensive research of the legislative framework that is effective in Ukraine, namely the laws effective in urban development, in architecture, and what we can call the general framework of urban development. So these are the laws of Ukraine on the fundamentals of urban development, on architectural activity, and on amendments to certain legislative acts of Ukraine on land use planning. Accordingly, this analysis before that we have conducted was based upon the fact that spatial development in Ukraine was developing along four major stages. The first stage lasts till 1991, before the independence. The next stage was 1991 till 2011, and the third 2011-2020, and the final period we are actually working in started in 2020, and it goes on till now. These periods were based upon the legislative acts regulating the development of our cities and our communities. So if you have a look at the slide, which represents the findings of my analysis, we can see that after 2020, when Ukraine has adopted the law I have already mentioned today, law 711-9, we have changed our focus, which the key focus nowadays is on international cooperation and implementation of international programs, and the principles of urban development now include individual participation, identity, and after 2020 we are confidently saying that the focus of our attention presently in terms of urban land use has been transferred to the local level, and we must have bottom-up initiative and horizontal initiative in contrast to centralized systems. Next slide. Exactly to continue what I have just said, the bottom-up approach and horizontal connections are represented by the overall structure, which today is reflected in the normative documents in Ukraine in terms of urban planning. And here I mean that we have quite a lot of documents in terms of strategic planning, long-term planning, mid-term planning, and short-term planning, which quite often, when we're talking about the level of communities and territorial promoters, these documents are disconnected. They have no links between them themselves. We have the strategy of development, and we have the urban development documentation, and the latter will say where we would like to build and how to implement our intentions. So after 2020, the key focus of our attention was transferred to the local level, which I believe is absolutely expedient, and it is well-grounded and substantiated by the European approach. After that, Ukraine has introduced the new kind of urban planning documentation, which is called General Planning Scheme, Comprehensive Planning of Spatial Development of the Territory of the Territorial Community. This has become the key document for the planning documentation at the local level. I can say that this is a step forward for the system of urban planning, because the territorial communities, which have amalgamated as a result of the territorial community, territorial reform. As a result, such settlements, which usually were not joined by anything but territorial connections, now they have become one organism, and they need to revise their communication and interaction. The war has consolidated the country, and we can see a lot of initiative which comes from the bottom up grassroots initiative. And so, in my opinion, it is very important to adhere to the vector, to follow the vector of such territorial development. I would like to say that for territorial communities which have not amalgamated with other settlements, and sometimes we have territorial communities which include just one settlement, then they will have to design a territorial plan. This is the situation with the Kherson, for instance. Next slide, please. And despite the fact that the comprehensive plan is not quite a new kind of documentation, and such plans have been developed for 3, even 4 years, and as within the legal framework. In Ukraine, we can witness really very low standard of such documentation and low activity. One of the reasons is that territorial communities fail to understand what to do with the challenges of war, whether the challenges of war warrant great investment into designing such documents when the communities may have no information, no knowledge about what to do tomorrow. So what will be the challenges of specific objects located within the community territory, etc.? So this hinders the process. And well, before last week, I was confidently saying that the development of comprehensive plans was rather critical in Ukraine because not a single comprehensive plan was adopted in Ukraine. But the situation changed yesterday. Yesterday, the first comprehensive plan of Midrubish territorial community was adopted. Once again, it happened yesterday, and it has become the first territorial community to have the full package of comprehensive plan for spatial development and the whole documentation. If we see the time frame of designing these plans, we assess the situation in the following way. Ukraine will need around 11 years to supply all the communities with these comprehensive spatial development plans. And besides the military risks, which I have already mentioned, another risk for the community is the costliness of the design of such a plan. Let us take Chernihiv region as a case for designing the comprehensive spatial development plan. Why Chernihiv Oblast, why Chernihiv region was selected for our analysis? During the first days of the full-scale invasion, Chernihiv region was among the first regions to experience the ruination of the war, because Chernihiv region was affected from the Sumy region. Part of the Chernihiv region territory was occupied, and presently Chernihiv region is deoccupied, but its north is still endangered by the war. So, next slide, please. In our opinion, the design and implementation of comprehensive spatial development documentation, which will dictate spatial development in Chernihiv region in the future, we believe it is the very topical issue, even despite the military risks, because presently Chernihiv region has quite a lot of ruination, and the focus of territorial development, which used to be in the north and in the northeast, both the region and the communities need to find new visions, new ideas for spatial development. This slide shows the overall situation with the development of comprehensive spatial development plans. And it shows that especially rural settlements and rural communities are underprovided with this documentation. Next slide, please. Talking about the Chernihiv region, according to the data provided to us by the Chernihiv military regional administration, the overall situation with the design of the plans is extremely low, because around 27.5% of the regional settlements used to have comprehensive spatial development plans. But out of these plans, 43% had their plans outdated, and so these plans couldn't meet the needs of the spatial development in the modern situation.
So, looking at the challenges we are facing because of the war, the state suggested a comprehensive recovery program at the territory of the region and at the territory of the territorial community. So basically at the local level and at the regional level. And Chernihiv region is also focusing on this comprehensive recovery program. And this comprehensive recovery program of the territorial community should be based on the program of the regional level, of the same program of the regional level. And as of April 2024, In Chernihiv region, 6 territorial communities already had developed and approved comprehensive recovery programs that included, based on the current legislation, they included those priority principles of development that include focusing on people, sustainable spatial planning, energy efficiency, balanced resources, etc. So all of these points were included in those approved programs. We also analyzed the negative direct and indirect consequences that Chernihiv region faced with in the context of spatial development. And in particular, those impacts include the change of the focus of attention from those priority areas of regions that of development that were before, such as the need of the development of economic sector of the region, and also the impossibility to comprehensively approach the planning because the future is unclear and because there are certain negative aspects that we are unfortunately facing because of the large-scale war. Next slide, please. This is going to be the final slide of my presentation today, and I would like to just highlight that currently territorial communities of Ukraine are facing a number of significant challenges. However, by actually comprehensive spatial development and by comprehensive spatial planning, they strengthened their resilience. And in my opinion, in our opinion, the recovery we should be focusing on the recovery of the post-war period, but on the other hand, territorial communities and specifically Chernihiv region communities, despite the threats they're facing and despite the negative aspects they're facing, these communities are demonstrating their resilience, they are demonstrating their strength, and already now, despite all these challenges, they are already now taking a comprehensive approach and focusing on sustainable and comprehensive planning down to top approach, bottom-top approach. They're taking this approach at the territory of the territorial community. Thank you for your attention, and I am happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
In a way, a concluding overview regarding framework we have in Ukraine on recovery programs and recovery planning. But also on the spatial planning with the focus of the interconnectedness or disconnectedness between these two policy directions. So now we are having a very last 10 to 15 minutes of remarks from our readers. And I think we're all would like to have a lunch afterwards, so let's not keep it too long. So I open the floor to any of you who wants to start.
Me? Okay. Thank you, Oleksandr. Thank you, Mariia, for your very interesting and impressive presentation. I prepared some comments and positive moments as well. The article provides a thorough analysis of the spatial development of territorial communities in Ukraine and lays the background for their post-war recovery. Addressing such issues requires a balanced scientific approach and the use of the latest research tools. The authors have managed to achieve good results and reveal the peculiarities of post-war community recovery using the example of a particular region that suffered from occupation and is now being destroyed. The results can be transferred to other areas with similar development conditions. And also I have some critical comments, as I said before. In the materials, the first one, in the materials and methods section, you write about the research process and not the materials and methods. If the materials can be still understood from the context, you should instead state which methods you used. And there's a very brief literature review, you know about it. And a description of the history of the country is unnecessary in this article. It does not reveal the essence of the problem. Focus on the current moment for special developments, starting with 2011. And it would be better to show how the realities of Ukraine related to the European Union legal framework. And if the case of the Chernihiv region is presented, the title should read as a case study of Chernihiv region. At the end of the subsection 4.2, the conclusions should be presented in briefly or more widely. Also, I can say that the title of your article is not like very general, but the essence of your article, the whole text is very specific, so you can bring the title into line with these specific issues, and to make the title of the article not so general, but maybe more understandable for readers, to make more clear what you want to say in your article. And also, conclusions of your article, now it's like prospects. And for you to understand is only my critical view onto your article. You can take them into consideration or you can reject them. But thank you very much. It was really very good idea to read your article. Thank you very much, Mariia. Also, I have two questions.
Yeah, proceed.
English or Ukrainian?
We can, the way you like, maybe, yeah. You started in English, maybe continue in English.
Mariia, if you don't mind, in Ukrainian, yeah. Я хочу, щоб ви трошки пояснили.
So I would like you to explain a bit more public governance in spatial planning. So what specifically do you mean? And you also, in the text of the article, you have this ambiguity or unclearness in spatial planning. So what is the statement of lack of this ambiguity in spatial planning? So what do you mean by that? Thank you, Olga. Thank you for your review. Thank you for your comments. And I'm really pleased that you took the time to read my articles. And I will for surely consider your critical comments. They are very important to me and to this research. So thank you. Answering your questions, first of all, what I mean by this governance, state governance or public governance in spatial planning. First of all, in Ukraine, the question of governance, public governments or state governments is the question that is crucial right now, I think, in any area, in any sector. And why do I say state or public governance? Why do I use these two words? Because currently Ukraine is following this clear course to call our planning public planning when it comes to spatial planning, because it drives more focus on expanding the people and entities who take part in this governance. So when I say public governments, it doesn't only include strictly legislative regulation, not only framework and policies that take this top-down approach, but in this definition, we also include what I mentioned in my presentation. We also include the bottom-to-top approach, because we have various actors. We have the professional community that takes an active part and is the key participant, the key actor of spatial planning. But we also have the civil society as one of the key stakeholders in this process. Besides, we also have the foreign partners and the local investors and those persons who would like to invest their funds in the development of specific communities and specific territories. So in our view, the question of high quality and effective governance, and here I would like to focus on the word public governance. So the effective public governance is the foundational aspect to grow this sector overall. When it comes to this sort of ambiguity or unclear prospects in the spatial planning, I mean the following. If we look at the foreign practice, what I mean by uncertainty, we have three key terms, three key points that are used by our foreign partners. So spatial planning, spatial development, and urban planning. So those are the three key terms, and urban decisions as well. In Ukraine, we have this overarching term that we say urban development, or that probably does not cover these specific areas that are present in the world practice. That's why, despite the fact that for a couple of years now, we say that in Ukraine, we are working on spatial planning, we are taking separate steps toward the development of spatial planning, we still cannot clearly define what we mean by spatial planning. This term, this definition of this term is not specified in any legal document. There is no clear definition of this term, except for separate scientific research articles. However, urban development that we use, this term, does not respond to the needs and to the questions that our area is faced with. So this is basically, I'm talking about so the uncertainty is something that should be identified in the urban development code that we're actively working on. So we have to clearly specify what spatial planning is, and I would like to leave this question open. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariia. And we're just having last 5 minutes of comments before moving to lunch break.
Yes, it will be very short comments and only one question. Yes, first of all, Mariia, I think that the article presents a powerful contribution, not only to the discourse of legislative support of spatial planning in Ukraine, but also it offers a unique author's vision of the evolution of state management of planning and development of the territories. And also, it's very important that the detailed regional analysis of the involvement of Ukrainian territorial communities from others in the process of creating a key type of urban planning documentation, comprehensive spatial development plan. It's also is noteworthy. Also, it was really interesting, the analysis of the case of Chernihiv Oblast, whose communities have been significantly affected by the military aggression. And this raises a controversial question that probably deserves to be addressed by you. In the context of the consequences of the war, significant changes in the geostrategic position and new function of the border areas, shouldn't we discuss the revision of the administrative territorial structure at the Hromadas level in Chernihivska Oblast? And secondly, the conclusions of the article can be first strengthened by continuing the line of analysis of the strategic vision of the recovery and development of Chernihiv region. You propose a very detailed analysis of direct and indirect losses, and I think it can be supplemented with the strengths and opportunities of spatial development using the SWOT analysis methodology. This will allow for a better spatial perspective when formulating comprehensive recovery programs and developing comprehensive spatial development plans. And one more comment, perhaps as a reflection for the future continuum of the study, it is about participatory planning and participatory activism and urban activism in the development of urban planning documentation. This is now becoming a powerful tool for decentralizing spatial planning and decisions alongside the existing hierarchical structure of regulative documents. And in general, the research consistently and structuredly covers the process of reforming the regulatory framework in the field of urban planning and architecture, which is influenced by decentralization and the challenges of martial law, and it gives many valuable and useful results. Я повторю одне моє питання, яке прозвучало.
So I will repeat one of my questions and rephrase it again. Don't you see, maybe do you see the need or the opportunity in the light that Chernihiv region, even before the war, demonstrated quite negative trends in terms of demographic and social and economic development, and today this negative trend strengthened by the consequences of the war because the region suffered dramatically because of the war. So maybe you see the need and the prospects for review the territorial structure and at the Hromada level, at the community level. Daria, first of all, thank you for your comments on the article and on my presentation. They are very valuable to me. And answering your question, yes, in fact, Chernihiv region is one of these specific regions of Ukraine because despite the closeness to Kyiv region, despite the closeness to Kyiv as the capital, the region has been demonstrating negative trends and processes in terms of demographics and other aspects, and actually had its own major challenges in development. And whether I see the prospects of reviewing the structure of the territorial community, of the territorial structure in Chernihiv region, probably no, because carrying out this analysis on the development, on the current development in the spatial development context, we face the following thing. In fact, the communities of Chernihiv region are developing quite actively, considering the special aspects in construction, in land development, in attracting investment in the region and in this region and sub-regions. So this question is a very good one, but on the other hand is a very complex one. And if we talk about the north of Chernihiv region and those communities that are still at risk of hostilities, these communities unfortunately will not receive and will not have the opportunity to receive the prospects, to see the development prospects that they could have had otherwise. But if we don't look at this territory that is 40 kilometers close to the border, this northern territory, it's very interesting that objectively looking at the indicators, the territories are growing, but when we look at the demographics, the trends are declining. So I think that in this question, we should focus on this question in further research. We should do further observation of this process. Thank you.
Thank you all for having this discussion. We are moving to the lunch break, but before that, I would like to announce that we have shortened our program. We will not have the full conclusion session as it was planned. It will be included within the last session. So we will conclude by 6:30 the whole program of the event today. But apart from that, there are no major changes. So we get back at 2:30 to hear about planning tools and learning from case studies. So I would like to see you all back here and have a nice lunch break. And thank you again.